Let's say you've got geographic data like this and you want to make a map. But instead of just making a static map, let's pretend you want to make a dynamic map. A map that could be added to an interactive dashboard along with a slicer so that instead of looking at all the states and all the counties, you could just select one state at a time. Okay, so let's try it. Let's try making a dynamic map. We're going to insert a pivot table, just like you normally would for dynamic charts and dashboards. And we're going to do a little bit of dragging and dropping. We're going to look at state and county nested in with each other. And then we're going to look at a sum of fictional category A. Okay, pretty quick to make the pivot table, right? Now let's try adding the chart or map. So like regular charts are going to work just fine. Let's see if maps work. Oh, let's see. Do you know what's going to happen? Excel says, you can't do that. You can't link a pivot table to a map, which would make it seem like you can't use maps in dashboards. Super annoying, right? As a general rule, pretty much anything's possible in Excel. You just need the right workaround, and you need enough patience to figure out the workaround or find the workaround in YouTube videos like this one. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make a dynamic map. In case you're new to all of these terms, this is like the general flow of how everything's supposed to work. You're supposed to be able to go from your data set into your pivot table, which you just saw, and then from your pivot table into your pivot chart, which doesn't work for maps. And then you're supposed to be able to link everything together with a slicer. And then let's say you want a second chart or map or a third chart or map, you would just loop back around and repeat this process again, making another pivot table, another pivot chart, linking it to the existing slicer, and on and on and on and on. That's how it's supposed to work. And that's how it works for the vast majority of chart types. But that doesn't work for maps. That doesn't work with any of the newish chart types. Nothing from the 2018-2019 batch. Tree maps, you're going to get the same error message. Sunburst diagrams, same error message. What else are you going to get the same error message for? Histograms, box and whisker, waterfalls, funnels, all the newish charts. If you would try clicking on the pivot table, insert, you're going to get the same annoying thing. So here is the workaround. We just need one more step. We need to add an intermediate step called a helper table. So we're going to go from the data set to pivot table to helper table, and then helper to the map or tree map or sunburst diagram, and then link it all together with a slicer. Okay, so we already have the pivot table. Let's create a helper table over here. And to make the map, let me zoom in so you can see all these pieces. It's actually not that many pieces. Let's see. So I want to slice and dice by state. I want to look at just Alabama or just Florida or just Texas in my fictional dashboard. So like I need the county data and I need the fictional variable A data. I also need the higher geographic details. That's going to make sure that the map works. Because if you just entered like Orange County here, I live in Orange County, Florida, but there's also Orange County, California, Orange County, Indiana. So you'd have to enter like which state. Higher geographic data always helps. And then I would also recommend adding country because there's the state of Georgia and there's the country of Georgia. So these two are going to be really, really important there. Okay. We are going to fill in. We're not going to copy paste. In the past, I used to use lookups, V, X, index match to like make these variables go over here. And actually a workshop participant a few weeks ago taught me an even simpler maneuver. So let's try to get our pivot table to be set up as close as possible to this helper table setup that we need. So let's go to design. Subtotals are going to be off. Grand totals are going to be off. The report layout is critical. We need outline. You can see that now the state is in its own column. And we also need report layout, repeat all item labels. Alabama, 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 Alabama. In the past, I did that with a long workaround formula. It's going to be way, way simpler. Do I need anything in blank rows? I don't need any blank rows. We'll remove those. Okay, perfect. Great, great, great. So our pivot table matches our helper table pretty closely. I can fill in United States by hand. That's not the end of the world. Let's do a really simple formula called a dynamic array. We want this data to go over there. So we're just going to do equals and then highlight everything here. And then this is the part that makes it elastic, kind of like a hair scrunchie, right? So that it like stretches out and shrinks and stretches out and shrinks. It's the little dot, the little period right there. Okay. Now it's a formula that fills or spills into neighboring cells, and it's just like it's matched. Okay. So when you adjust the pivot table, the helper table adjusts as well. Let's see, what else do I need to do here? Let's add a slicer now. So we can slice and dice by state. And I'll put this, I don't know, my screen's getting like a little busy at this point. If I have Alabama, so well, that one doesn't show you anything because it's up top. Okay, let's do Alaska. If Alaska's selected in the slicer, that controls the pivot table, and then that controls the chart, the helper table right here. Arizona, Arkansas, California, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Great. I need to select the state that's going to have the longest county list. And because I've done so many county and state maps before, I know that it's Texas. Texas has, I want to say 255 counties. Is that right? I don't know. Should I quiz myself? 254 counties. That's the longest possible one. So that's how many United States I'm going to fill in right here. Okay. Tap, tap, fill it down. And then let's insert our map that we want to visualize counties, but for just one state at a time. I am so worried about what's going to happen because I have to get in the car for cheerleading practice for my daughter in like 90 seconds. So if this doesn't work, oh my gosh, moment of truth. I'm adding a map based on the helper. Oh, thank goodness. I was so worried. I was like, is this video going to be a total flop? Okay, let me show you how this works. Technically, it's what did I do in what order? I did it like this. As a general rule, slicers can be added to Excel tables, pivot tables, or pivot charts. As a general rule, I always recommend linking them to pivot tables because then the pivot table controls the helper and the chart. Okay, so this is kind of like our little, where's my draw? Here's my draw. Okay, so we've got the data set that we don't see, but it's like right over there going into the pivot table. The pivot table is controlling the slicer. Both of those together are affecting the helper, and then the helper is going into the map. Okay, let's make sure this works. Oh my gosh, again, I'm so worried. Okay, thank goodness. Now, it's not very interesting patterns because I made up these numbers just like I do for all of my YouTube videos. Yes. Okay. Alaska has some funny, I don't know what census areas or municipalities are. So sometimes we get like little messages. If you live in Alaska and you know what that's all about, let me know. Okay. Isn't this nice? And then this could be part of your dashboard. You would keep the tables on their own sheet because they're like just behind the scenes stuff. And then these could be cut and pasted onto a new sheet along with other charts. And they would form your dashboard. Okay. Pretty nice. So to recap, you can't go directly from pivot table to map. You just need a helper table. And when you're making the helper table, you are going to set up your pivot table as close as possible to what you need here. So you're going to have to click on your pivot table, go up to design. The key thing is the report layout outline and all item labels. And then the formula is just that little dynamic array, like a scrunchy hair tie that kind of stretches and contracts based on whatever is shown here. Pretty nice, right? That's like the workaround for these charts going into dynamic dashboards, for these going into dynamic dashboards, for maps going into dynamic dashboards. What'd this take? Maybe 10 minutes? In real life, it takes you like 3 minutes to do it. Pretty cool trick, in my opinion. All right, I'm off to cheer. See you later. Bye.